Crews are still working to clear roadways after the second blizzard of the year. We get an update on that from DPW Director Dan Santos. Also, police arrest 2 individuals and seize 280 grams of heroin during a raid last night. Plus, the snow is winding down, but the cold temps are here to stay for a bit. We have tips on how to stay warm. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, January 22nd, 2014. I'm Sarah Mannel. Snowfall totals are not as high as officials predicted, but that did not mean we didn't see some pretty rough conditions out on the roads last night and today. Joining me now over the phone to give us the latest update is the Director of the Public Works Department, Dan Santos. Dan, first, let's talk a little bit about cleanup efforts. Your crews have been at it all night and still today. How are things going at this point?
Well, things are going very well, given the circumstances of the wind, which has been the big problem with this storm, as it was with the last one, because once we clear the road, if it's an area that's particularly open to the wind, the snow gets blown right back in, so it's as if we didn't even go there. So we're having to go over roads many times to keep them clear, which is what we like to do. So that just makes it take a little longer, but as you mentioned, we certainly don't have the accumulations that were predicted. Looks like around 6 inches or so in this area, but I understand the snow is going to continue to fall throughout the day, and maybe some ocean effect snow and some flurries, so it could accumulate a bit more.
Now, Dan, how do you think this storm compared to the storm that we saw a few weeks ago?
Well, I think the big difference is in the amount of snow. Otherwise, it's very similar. Light, not a wet snow, a dry snow, so it's not heavy, which has been great because we haven't had the power outages that are often associated with heavy snow. And compared to the last one, it really is just the amount of snowfall. But the wind and the whiteout conditions and the difficult getting around has been very similar. And then the timing also is similar. The time of day it struck and the duration is very similar. So it's kind of interesting to have 2 in a row like that.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, people are starting to probably make their way out again. Any tips for drivers? I know that some of these events take a pretty good amount of time to clean up. And any advice for drivers?
Well, sure. There is snow on all the roads. I was out for a couple of hours this morning, and there were a few patches, small patches of pavement, but particularly the secondary roads. There's snow covered, and so they are dangerous, particularly if you're trying to drive like you normally would in dry conditions. So my advice, as always, in these conditions is if you have to go out, then be very cautious, drive slowly, keep the speed down, and just be more aware of your surroundings and other vehicles, so drive defensively.
It looks like, too, for the next few days, we're going to see some pretty cold temperatures. They're going to remain low for the next few days. Do these frigid conditions have any effect for you guys, or does it complicate cleanup efforts at all?
Well, it can. It depends. If we can get down to pavement, then there's a lot of dampness and moisture from the snow, and that can cause slippery conditions and black ice. So we'll be keeping an eye on that to make sure we're putting down sand and salt where necessary.
How long does this type of weather event really take to clean up? It must take quite a lot of time.
It does. It takes several days, in fact, to really push back all the sides and to take care of the sidewalks, which we do in the Hyannis and Main Street and the village centers. There's many parking lots that we have to work on. So and then when there's enough snowfall, and this storm is not really going to result in that on some of the main streets, we actually do snow removal. So we're not just plowing it and moving it. We're taking it off site. and that usually doesn't occur for a couple of days. But we'll have to see how much snow there is and whether that's going to be necessary. But I suspect not, given the smaller amounts that we've seen in this storm.
I know, Dan, after the last storm, we already used up a lot of the snow budget that was allotted for this fiscal year. Any idea when we're going to get some totals as far as how much cleanup efforts for this storm are going to cost?
Well, it takes a couple of days to put together. The last storm was over $400,000. This storm, at this point, is not quite the effort, but not far off. So I wouldn't be surprised if this storm was $300,000. So we're well over the allotted budget for this year. But as we've talked about before, that's not a problem. We're allowed to spend what it takes to keep the roads safe, and then next year's budget, we pick up the difference.
Now, before I let you go, Dan, any parting thoughts or advice for residents in this type of situation?
Once again, it's just be careful in your vehicle and when you're out of your vehicle. It's slick, and we don't want to see people getting injured unnecessarily.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, for that update. My guest tonight was DPW Director Dan Santos. Now let's take a look at some of those conditions I was talking about with Dan last night. Our producer Sarah Beal captured this video. As you can see, it was really windy, snowy, and messy out there. Now the snow may be winding down, but the colder temperatures we've seen in the storm are here to stay, at least for the next few days. Peter Judge with the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency is urging residents to take precautions when going outdoors.
You know, we're not telling everybody who's going to stay inside, particularly all the kids who are going to be home, but you want to monitor your amount of time outside. Break it up. Don't spend the whole afternoon outside doing stuff. If you can, go out for an hour or so, and you're starting to get cold, feeling uncomfortable, come in for a while, warm up, and then maybe go back out a little later. So, really pay attention, because the snow is going to stop at some point, but this wind chill is going to stick around with us for the next 2 or 3 days. So we want people to really be aware of that and just take, common sense precautions.
Judge also recommends dressing in several layers of loose-fitting clothing rather than a single layer of heavy clothing when going outdoors. 2 individuals are in jail today following a major drug bust last night. Barnstable Police Chief Paul McDonald says despite the storm, officers were able to wrap up a key investigation.
2 individuals arrested in Centerville, and there are 280 grams of heroin on them. So that was a huge drug arrest on these 2 individuals that we've been looking at for several months now. We worked in conjunction with Yarmouth PD. We're finally able to arrest both of them, William Sanford and John Antrim, on Naughty Pine Lane, Centerville, which is off of Shoe Flying Hill Road. So even though it is tough weather conditions out there, we still have our...
The court was closed today. Both individuals that were arrested will be arraigned in court tomorrow. Barnstable is again recognized for its keen financial eye. For the 14th year in a row, the Government Finance Officers Association has given Barnstable the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. According to the GFOA, this is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting and represents a significant achievement. The town of Barnstable will be using nearly $300,000 from the federal government to help low-income households during the next fiscal year. The Department of Growth Management develops a plan each year on how to dispense those funds. Residents can learn how the money will be spent and share their thoughts at a public hearing next week. The hearing was supposed to take place this afternoon, but due to the weather, that meeting has been canceled. The hearing will be held at 3 next Wednesday, that's January 29th, in the Town Hall hearing room. The State Attorney General's office is working with the town of Barnstable to revitalize homes that may have fallen into disrepair following the foreclosure crisis. Officials hope this effort will give some neighborhoods new life and keep residents safe. Contractors that are interested in participating can learn more about the program at an informational meeting next week. That meeting will be held Tuesday, January 28th at 10 a.m. in the Town Hall hearing room. And now we are going to travel back in time exactly 9 years ago and take a look at conditions following a huge winter storm that dropped more than 2 feet of snow in Barnstable. That happened in 2005. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.